Good morning, and thank you again for joining us. In this video, we'll attempt to debunk the myth that full-time hours in Australia is 40 hours per week. Unfortunately, not the case. Under the National Employment Standards, as prescribed in the Fair Work Act, full-time hours for most people employed in Australia are 38 hours per week. Now, there's a couple of important things to note in this respect. The first is that under a number of modern awards, there is a provision for the number of hours per week to be averaged over 2, 3, or 4 weeks. It's something that you should check carefully before prescribing what the full-time hours of work are. But for example, there may be an opportunity for your employee to work, for example, 30 hours in 1 week and 45 hours in a second week, and so on, to get to that average of 38 over the 4-week period. The second thing to note is that in some contracts of employment, it is possible to specify that an employee will work 40 hours per week as long as it's described as being 38 hours of ordinary time plus 2 hours of additional time, which are overtime, which are considered to be reasonable. So what is reasonable overtime in this instance? Usually, reasonableness in terms of additional hours comes down to a number of factors. That might include, for example, the nature of the business and the work being performed, the level of seniority of the employee and the amount that they're being compensated that will cover them for the additional hours being as overtime, the personal circumstances of the employee, and the amount of notice that they're given. Another important consideration in additional hours is, of course, work health and safety. And all of these things need to be factored in before a requirement for additional hours is made. It's important also to note that when calculating the number of hours that a full-time employee is working, that breaks are also considered. And an unpaid break of at least 30 minutes under most awards must be granted, and this is not included. So it ordinarily works out that if a person is working 8 hours per day and takes a 30-minute break, they're in fact working a 7.6-hour day. If it's a 1-hour break, again, that is unpaid, and that needs to be factored into the calculation when the spread of hours over the week is being considered and calculated. So generally, a couple of things to remember. The full-time working week in Australia is 38 hours. There may be the opportunity to include additional hours if they are reasonable within the rate of pay that is negotiated or agreed with the employee. Averaging may be possible, but it is important to check both the contract and the relevant modern award before any arrangements are put into place to cover this. If you've got questions, of course, HR Success are available and we'd be happy to help or to review your existing arrangements. Thanks for watching.